2.2 circles. We're going to start with a formula for center radius form of a circle. We've got quantity x minus h squared plus quantity y minus k squared equals r squared. And what's nice about this form is you can easily see the center and the radius of the circle. The center is given by the point hk. And those are going to be numbers, and you're going to be able to see it really quickly. The radius is r. So the only thing kind of tricky I think there is the formula says r squared. You're going to have to take the square root of that to get r for the radius. So example 1 says find the center radius form of the equation of each circle. All right. Great. We love this. The formula says x minus the x number, basically. Okay. You've seen this kind of form before. So just the x number is 1. So we're going to say x minus 1 squared plus the quantity y. And we would do minus the y number. But since it's minus negative 2, we're going to say plus 2 squared. And then the radius is 3. So we're going to square that radius and get 9. That's it. That's center radius form. You can put 3 squared if you like, but I think it's simpler if you just say 9. So then the next one, if you think about it, if the x number is 0 and the y number is 0, I mean, you can say 2 squared there if you want for the radius, but well, the radius is 2, but the formula says r squared. I think that formula or that equation is going to look a lot nicer if we clean that up. We wouldn't say x minus 0 squared. We'd just say x squared. Likewise with the y squared. And we wouldn't say 2 squared. We'd say 4. So I like that a lot better. I think that's a lot more simplified. So we've got 2 equations in center radius form. Example 2, graph each circle. So they're giving you that equation in center radius form. First thing you probably want to do is identify the center, right? Okay, the center of that thing looks like it's at what? 1, negative 2. And the radius is 3, right? Because r squared equals 9. So basically you're taking the square root of that 9. So we want to graph this thing. So let's think about this. We've got a center at the point 1, negative 2. And then here's how I would graph your circle, okay? If the radius is 3, I would go over in, north, south, east, west directions over 3. So over 3, up 3, over 3, down 3. Just put those dots and try your best to draw a nice looking circle through those dots. I'm not great at it. Okay. It'll look better if you zoom out, maybe. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the other one, x squared plus y squared equals 4. We can see the center is at 0, 0, and the radius is 2. So if we have a center at 0, 0 and go 2 in each direction, basically, we can draw a circle through there. I'm going to try that again. Pretty good. Okay. I think general form is a lot harder, okay? It's a lot harder to use. It might look nicer to you, I suppose, but I think it's harder to deal with. X squared plus y squared plus cx plus dy plus e equals 0. Okay, and so obviously x and y are variables, but the other letters c, d, and e are numbers. Okay, those are going to be numbers, and that's going to be general form of a circle. Okay, so there's an example on your homework, I believe, but I didn't put one in the notes. So I want to kind of show you what a typical question might look like. So let's say we have this center radius form. Okay, that's center radius form in red compared to the general form in blue. You've got those two. And in this section, you're going to have to go back and forth from one to the other. Okay, you have to change the blue one to the red one or the red one to the blue one. You have to go back and forth between the two forms. Okay, so if you're looking at that red one, if you're looking at center radius form and the directions say to change it to general form, you're just going to have to do a lot of FOIL. It's not that hard. It's just, I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not the quickest thing in the world, but it's not that bad either. Okay. So imagine what you would do. Basically, we're going to take this x plus 2 and expand it. X plus 2 squared. Okay, and so I'm not going to show the distributive property. I'm going to kind of skip that step. Distribute, whatever, FOIL, if that's what you call it. You would end up with x squared plus 4x plus 4. There is a shortcut for squaring a binomial. If you know that, then that's great. It has to do with you square the first one, you square the last one, and then you multiply these and double it. But likewise, you do the same thing over here with y minus 4. You would expand that. Okay, and again, FOIL that out. I'm going to skip a step here. But if you distributed, you get y squared minus 8y plus 16. So general form of the equation is basically gathering your like terms. So if you gathered your like terms there, you'd see an x squared, and you'd see a y squared. Let's see, you have a 4x and an 8y. I guess there aren't very many like terms, are there? There's 4 and 16 right there, so that makes 20. And then don't forget we had this equals 4 because this was an equation. And we're almost there. We're almost to general form. The only thing missing is general form has an equal 0, right? So how would I make this equal 0? I'd just subtract that 4 over. And so if I subtracted that 4 over, we'd have x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 8y plus 16 equals 0. Now we're in general form. So if we had to go from center radius form to general form, basically you expand and gather like terms. Okay, not too bad, but that's what you would do. I should have put an example in the notes, but I forgot. Okay. I think the harder thing to do for most people is to go the other way. Example 3 says, here's an equation in general form. I want the formula in center radius form. Okay. I want to find the center and radius. If you want the center and radius, you put it in center radius form, and you can see it. Okay. So show that the given equation has a circle as its graph. Find the center and radius. Basically, they're telling you to put it in center radius form. All right. So in order to do that, you're going to have to do something called complete the square. And we're about to do it right now. If you want to know more about it, you can always Google search and find some other videos on completing the square. But here I'm about to show you right now. Okay. We want to kind of split the x's and the y terms. Okay. So you kind of separate them, leave some space, I guess. Okay. Basically completing the square, put a blank here and a blank here. All right. And I'm also going to add this 44 over. I want to get this out of the way. Okay. I want the 44 out of the way. It doesn't really, the way I do it, have anything to do with the problem. Okay. So completing the square. Okay. Remember what center radius form looked like. All right, center radius form, you've got a square here and you've got a square here. Okay, so what we're trying to do is turn what we had into something that looks like this. Okay, completing the square. So how this works, okay, how this works is we're going to take this number right here and we're going to take half of that number. Okay, half of that number is 2. And so I'm going to write it down. That's part of my answer right there. Okay. But then to complete the square, you take that number and you square it. So 2 squared is 4. And I'm going to write it here in the blank. Okay, I fill in that blank. All right. Now, likewise over here, I'm going to look at this -8. Half of that number is not 4. Half of that number is -4. So I'm going to write down a -4 underneath here. And then if I square that number, if you square that number -4, you're going to get positive 16. And by the way, you will always get a positive number because when you square it, it's always going to be positive. Okay? Now, what I've just done is I have completed the square. If you think about factoring, okay, factor, and how we factor is we look for 2 numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to 4. That would be 2 and 2. So if you factor that, don't write this down. Just like Algebra 1 class, you could write like x plus 2, x plus 2. That's how that would factor, right? But that's a square. That's a square. So I'm not going to write it twice. I'm going to write it once squared. Okay? Likewise over here, 2 numbers that multiply to 16 and add up to -8. You could say -4 and -4. That's a square. So I've got y minus 4 squared. Okay? But I kind of messed up the equation. All right? Think about an equation as a balance. Okay? And a balance, and you've got one side equal to the other side, right? Okay? And you had some stuff over here, and you had some stuff over here, and it was in balance. When we started, the equation was in balance, and we added 44 to both sides, and it was still in balance. We can do that. Okay? But if you notice, I kind of messed up my problem when I added 20. Okay? I added 20 to the left side that was completely out of nowhere. That 4 and that 16 weren't there before. I manufactured that on my own. I unbalanced the equation. Okay? So you've got to take care of that in one of 2 ways. All right? Either you can balance the equation by adding 20 to the other side, or you can subtract 20 from the left side. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You're trying to balance the equation. Does that make sense? Okay. What I like to do, I think this will help you in something later. I mean, it'd probably be easier to add 20 to the right side right now. But I like to think about it this way. If I added 4 here, I'm going to subtract 4 just to keep it in check. And if I added 16, I'm going to subtract 16 just to keep it in check. So if you think about it, in total, I added 20 out of nowhere on the left side, and so I subtracted 20 just to keep myself in check and to keep my equation balanced. All right? So if you look at my equation now, I haven't accounted for this minus 20 in blue, and I also haven't written down the equals 44. Okay? This top line right here is now exactly the same thing as this second line right there. Okay? But in order to make it look like center radius form, I need to get rid of this number right here, so I'm just going to add it over. Let's add 20 to both sides. Let's add the 20 to both sides, and we would have x plus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 64. That's an equation in center radius form. Okay, this is a circle. This is a circle. Specifically, it has a center at what point? Where's the center? Negative 2, 4. Very good. And a radius equal to what? 8. Exactly. The square root of 64 is 8. This is a circle with center at negative 2, 4 and a radius of 8.